I always believed that absolute silence had the power to heal. Perhaps it was this naive thought that made me sink all my savings into buying an old, lopsided cabin on the very edge of the northern Taiga. The nearest settlement was nearly 50 kilometers away down a broken dirt road. No internet, no cell service, just me, a dilapidated wooden house, and the endless primordial forest creeping right up to the backyard. The first 3 days felt like paradise. I chopped wood, read books by the light of a kerosene lamp, and watched the thick morning fog envelop the black trunks of centuries-old pines. The forest felt like a silent guardian. But toward the end of the first week, I began to notice strange things. It all started with a single tree. It was a massive, deformed pine with a deep lightning scar carved into its bark. On the day I arrived, I distinctly remembered it standing at the very edge of the tree line, about 30 meters from my porch. I even thought to myself then that if it fell, it wouldn't reach the house. But on the fourth morning, stepping outside with a hot mug of tea, I caught myself thinking that the scar on the bark looked much clearer. I stepped forward and paced out the distance, 20 meters. I wrote it off as a trick of the eye, a lingering urban paranoia that hadn't quite left my system. After all, trees don't walk. It defies the laws of physics, common sense, and nature itself. But the following night, I heard the sound for the first time. I was lying in bed, wrapped in a heavy blanket, when a dull, guttural, grinding noise echoed from outside. It didn't sound like branches snapping in the wind, or the footsteps of a wild beast. It was the slow, agonizing sound of something massive and rough, dragging against the frozen earth, as if someone were pulling heavy stone columns through the mud. I went to the window and peered into the gloom, but the night was moonless. I saw nothing, but I felt something, a smell, a thick, suffocating stench of damp soil, rot, and crushed pine needles seeped right through the cracks in the window frames. In the morning, I stepped out onto the porch and froze. The yard had shrunk. This could no longer be dismissed as fatigue or playing shadows. The wall of the forest, which just yesterday had framed the property line, had now moved in close. That same scarred pine loomed a mere 10 meters from my front door. The earth around it was churned up, as if giant roots had ripped themselves from the soil and dug back in, inching their way toward my home, step by agonizing step. Panic hit me in a searing wave. I sprinted to my car, parked on the other side of the house. The plan was simple: abandon my belongings, start the engine, and drive blindly until the dirt road led me back to civilization. But the road was gone. Where just yesterday there had been a rut leading to the highway, there now stood a dense, impenetrable palisade of young spruces and crooked birches. They had woven their branches together, forming a solid wooden wall. My car was trapped. Thick roots had already coiled around the tires, crushing the rubber until it cracked. And one branch had pierced straight through the windshield like a spear. The forest had cut off my retreat. It wasn't just advancing, it was laying siege to me. I locked myself inside the house. I boarded up the windows with planks torn from the attic floor. My hands were shaking, and my heart was pounding somewhere up in my throat. I turned on every lantern I had and sat in the center of the living room, gripping a heavy axe. I spent the entire next day in darkness. Sunlight no longer reached the rooms. The tree canopy had closed tightly above the roof, plunging the house into perpetual twilight. And when night fell, the true nightmare began. The forest stopped hiding. The sound of tearing earth now came from all sides. I could hear the trunks scraping against the exterior walls. The timbers groaned under the monstrous pressure. In the kitchen, a window shattered with a deafening crash. Black, slime-covered roots slithered into the room, writhing like blind snakes. They moved slowly, but relentlessly, feeling their way across the floor, overturning chairs and tearing the wallpaper. The house groaned. The roof bowed inward with a sound as if a concrete slab had been dropped onto its shoulders. They were crushing the cabin from every direction. The forest didn't want to kill me quickly. It wanted to consume this alien structure, and me along with it. I retreated to the basement. It was the only place with stone walls. I slammed the heavy oak door shut behind me, threw the iron deadbolt, and slumped down the stairs into the damp, pitch-black darkness. My flashlight had started flickering and died completely about an hour ago. Now I am sitting here on the cold concrete floor. Above me, my house is gone. I heard the ceiling collapse a few hours ago. I heard the wooden beams splintering, ground to dust by thousands of trunks. And now I hear silence. That very same absolute silence I came here to find. But it isn't empty. Right now, a meter away from me, a crack is forming in the stone wall of the basement. Plaster is sifting down from the ceiling. I can hear something living squeezing its way through the growing fissure with a quiet, wet, rustling sound. It smells of pine needles and ancient, centuries-old dampness. And in this absolute darkness, I am beginning to understand. The forest isn't just alive, it is hungry, and the roots are already touching my feet.